Is anyone going to buy Paramount Global? After time run out on exclusive merger talks with one suitor, the indebted corporation's now weighing up a deal with another. But what are the prospects there's no merger at all? And why hasn't Paramount Plus proved the money spinner it was meant to be? Well, to answer those questions and more, we're joined from LA by journalist KJ Matthews. Thanks a lot for being with us. Can we just start with the state of play here, actually, KJ? Paramount was in these exclusive talks with the entertainment company Skydance, but now it's not in those talks anymore. So what's happened there?
Well, really, I won't put Skydance out of the game altogether. It's just not in exclusive talks anymore. Now there are other suitors in Hollywood that would like to buy Paramount Global. And that suitor really is Apollo, which is another company, management company, along with Sony. They're interested in buying, and their deal is a lot higher and a lot better for shareholders, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's one of the issues, right, with the Skydance deal, that a lot of shareholders feel that it favours the rather larger shareholders than the smaller shareholders better.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm hearing. The Skydance deal apparently is somewhere between $2 and $3 billion. And a lot of people are saying that it looks great for Sherry Redstone, who has a majority stake in Paramount Global. Her family has run Paramount Global for decades. You know, her father that's passed away was before her, and then she inherited. And so a lot of people are saying it's great for her, but it's not so good for the shareholders, because if that deal were to go through, the shareholders would just get stock, not cash. And right now, because the fact that Paramount Global stock has fallen, they're not too happy about a stock deal when the stock continues to fall. So that's not a deal that shareholders are very interested in. But if you look at the Apollo/Sony deal, they were willing to offer $26 billion, and a lot of that in cash. So shareholders are saying, yes, that's the deal we want. We want the cash deal, especially when stock continues to plummet. That's what we're hearing.
But a Sony Apollo deal wouldn't be without its controversy, albeit not with the shareholders. But the fact is that the larger partner would be Sony, which is a Japanese company, and obviously that would involve a Japanese company taking control of CBS, potentially. So there are problems there too, right?
But they could do that through Apollo, which is wanting to kind of merge with them and do this combined deal where the American company will be able to take care of a lot of that. But that deal is still problematic because it still has a lot of regulatory issues. It has tax issues. And then the bottom line, a lot of people are saying, is where is the $26 billion coming from? Is it a serious deal? And this is one of the reasons why it's taken so long for them to get to the table. I don't know if you recall, but initially, when they came to the table with the $26 million, Sherry Redstone wasn't even interested because she didn't think that it was a serious enough deal, and she didn't want to walk away from the talks that she already had ongoing with Skydance, which she knew that they can come up with the $2 billion. So they really weren't serious. Now they're at least willing to entertain it. But then I'm hearing now, you know, if it's going to take too long, Sony and Apollo might just walk away and buy something else.
So does that mean there's a possibility of Paramount striking no deal at all with neither of these parties?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It could be that maybe in the end, none of these things are sold and that Sherry just sells her majority share and walks away. I think, you know, what people have to understand is her father built this company and grandfather built this company, and she came in when they were not there anymore, and she put all these components together. Remember, Paramount Global has the Paramount Motion Pictures part, and then there are the cable channels like the Country Music Television, Black Entertainment Television, Comedy Channel, all these channels that play on cable, and then they even have sports and they have news. So there's all these little kind of fiefdoms or small parts that she put together. And if it was going to be sold, my understanding and what I'm hearing around town is that Sherry really wanted it to be sold together and not compartmentalize it. And so now, if it's looking like they're not going to get a deal, she may be willing to just sell whatever she can and walk away from the deal.
Right, so you might get buyers for just some of the areas and not others. One might want to, I don't know, buy the box office business, but maybe not the streaming business or something like that. So how is
Everybody
Paramount?
is interested in picture studio. The film part, everyone's interested in. It's just the Paramount Plus streaming service, the cable channels, the CBS News part, and the CBS Sports part that some players are saying, we're willing to walk away from that.
Well, we should talk about the fortunes of Paramount and why people might be a bit sort of about purchasing the whole package. So Paramount Global's existed in a few different forms after years of mergers, sell-offs, and mergers again. Here we are. But this current iteration has existed since 2019. We're just going to have a look here at the stock valuation, and we can also see the dive that stock price has taken since its peak in 2021. The stock's lost 70% of its value since that CBS and Viacom merger. I mean, what's been going wrong, KJ?
Well, a lot of people point back to May. I don't know if you recall the news back then. That is when Bob Bakish, who was running it then, of course, he was really good friends with Sherry at the time, and she appointed him to the position of being the CEO. But he came in and said, we need to cut back on some of the dividends that we're paying out to shareholders so we can take that money and reinvest that into all the other businesses that we have. And that's what they did. And they thought in doing this, it'll create a growth stock. It will make the value of the company go up and people will love that. Well, guess what? It did not do that. It plummeted to almost 5 cents a share at one point. The value of the company went down and it was a really bad decision. And I'm told that, it was Bob that really kind of convinced Sherry Redstone to go along with his deal. So once she went along with his deal and they did that and the value of the company went down, I think she soured. And that was kind of the beginning of the end for Paramount. And that was when they started to, or at least Sherry started to consider possibly looking at selling the company.
There's been more bad news, hasn't there, in Warren Buffett saying that he sold all of his Paramount shares, suggesting that he'd sort of misjudged the entertainment business. Let's just have a look at what he said at a recent Berkshire Hathaway shareholder meeting. He said, "We lost quite a bit of money. I think I'm smarter now than I was a couple of years ago, but I also think I'm poorer because I acquired the knowledge in the manner I did." So he seems to think that there's been some misjudgments on his part of what the entertainment industry was going to be like. He talked about how people spend their leisure time and it not being quite what he'd expected. Has Paramount made some misjudgments about that as well?
Well, I think the biggest misjudgment was the one I just mentioned with Bob Bakish and then keeping some of the dividends and reinvesting it back to the company. Whenever you cut dividends for shareholders, it's never popular. News alert, shareholders don't want their dividends cut. So that's the first thing. And then to have the dividends cut and see the value of the stock that you have go down on the stock market is a really, really, really bad thing to happen. So all of those things were missteps. If you say all those things were missteps. And over the years, all of the company, including the stock, was just going down in value. Paramount Plus was probably a misstep, not having the type of competition that they should have if they're going to be in the same streaming market as a Netflix or a Hulu or even HBO Max. I mean, you have to be more competitive. And a lot of people have said that HBO and Netflix and Hulu are much more competitive than Paramount Plus, and they weren't really doing anything to change that. So I think they were a little bit slow to react to the ever-changing streaming market and even the movie market.
Was Paramount Plus a misstep to the extent that it just shouldn't have happened? Should Paramount have just continued to put its own product out just on other streaming services, other more successful streaming services?
A lot of people have said that here in Hollywood, but every single network and studio has a streaming platform. How much money you put into it, how much time you invest into it, that really is the big question. I think Paramount Plus was not a mistake, but perhaps the amount of money that they put into it, or the fact that they didn't make a lot of their offerings competitive or give people enough content that they wanted to see. Maybe beside one or two offerings, but you need to be much more competitive. And maybe it seems like it was more of an afterthought and they really just didn't have a plan in place to make it go head to head with the big boys in the streaming world here in Hollywood.
What is the view from the people you speak to about, the streaming landscape in the US in particular, with all of, Disney Plus and what's it called? Is it Apple TV or Apple TV Plus? I always get those confused. Paramount Plus as well. Is it become too fragmented? Do people feel that? Are viewers being expected to just pay out for too many different subscriptions now?
Right. I knew you asked, and I wanted to tell you, I have some numbers. Streaming isn't going anywhere, and it's not too fragmented. Listen to these numbers. 38.1% of all TV usage is dedicated to streaming. 1.8 billion subscriptions to streaming services, and that's gone up. Netflix has over 200 million subscribers. And basically 38.1% of all TV total usage is from streaming. So streaming is evolving. It's growing. It's not going anywhere. But a lot of these studios just have to understand their content selection and what people want. And a lot of people are still fighting with that. They're still fighting to be the Netflix. Paramount Plus is not an example, a shining example of success in the streaming landscape, but there are examples of success. They're just not one of them.
And as for the Paramount Global saga, which has already been rolling on for so long, is it going to continue rolling on for a long time?
I don't think Sherry Redstone has it in her to want this to continue too much longer. I think if they don't find a buyer within the next month, I really believe that she would probably be willing to just sell her stake, her share in it, and then walk away, because I'm hearing around town that she just really, her heart isn't into it anymore. And you see the stock dropping, and then you hear Warren Buffett saying, he made a mistake. It's not a good time right now. And they've lost Bob Bakish. So the idea of her just kind of sticking in there and seeing what other suitors are out there and letting it go on for months and months just isn't something that's realistic right now. I think they'll have to find a buyer. And if not, she'll sell her particular share, have to break it up and just take whatever she can get at this time. Because remember, Paramount stock has plummeted. It is not at the value that it was several years ago. So she will have to take a lesser amount, and she's already lost billions over the time, just like Warren Buffett, and that's just the way it is. But hey, it's like anything. It's like the real estate market. You're either up or you're down. Sometimes you have a housing market that's great and homes are selling for a lot, and then sometimes you don't. It's the same way in Hollywood.
KJ, it's always great to get the inside track from you. Thank you so much for joining us from LA. That's KJ Matthews there.
Thank you.